What is up? This is Game of Inches, episode number 11, Mayflower Sports. I'm Andrew, joined by Jake. Of course, we are back recording this on a Monday night. This will be posted Tuesday evening. What's up, Jake?
Happy to be back, buddy. Had a crazy weekend in sports. I was on the tennis grind this weekend. Safe to say we got a new fan, but no, it's good to be back. I look forward to this every week, like we talked about. I got a few takes this weekend for the UFC. We're gonna have Harry on. I'm excited to always talk to my buddy Harry about UFC. But it's always just a good time to be back and talking to you about sports, man. How was your weekend?
Man, just like you, I know you've got an interesting story to tell for the listeners about betting wise, and I went on just the most like fucked up run I've ever been on in my life, like just staying up super late, probably making bets that I shouldn't be making, and probably don't want anyone to know that I was making. But just a crazy weekend. The boys were able to go to a bar and watch the Habs and Leafs game and just get out and about. So it was a good time. We're going to talk, like you said, some UFC. Obviously, that was amazing. Usman defeats Burns. We're going to talk some JJ Watt, and we're going to talk the future of the company and the future of the podcast. So in for a fun and hopefully an informative podcast here with the show. And let's start with the weekend roundup here. I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it, man, with the Habs and Leafs. Like, I'm fucking fired up because the fact of the matter is we don't have to score 4 or 5 goals to win. And, you know, I love it. People sometimes roasting yourself can be really funny comedy. And people were saying, like, I will never be someone that was saying anything bad about Carey Price. But for, like, the couple bad games against the Senators, and then maybe like that performance against the Leafs where we just couldn't get anything going and a bunch of nobody scored for the Leafs. Everybody was like, yeah, trade Carey Price, fire Claude Julien. And I looked at you at the bar and was like, man, maybe it's time to move on from Julien. And you were like, dude, that's the most wild take I've ever heard from you out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And like the funny thing is like I wasn't alone. Like people, it wasn't just me saying that, but it was because Claude Julien came to a team that struggled to score, and he's a defensive coach. But maybe I had a couple drinks in me. Maybe I was a pissed off fan. But the fact of the matter is like they just like literally proved me wrong and proved like exactly why I should never even have thought that. And I wasn't thinking that, but seeing so many other Habs fans say it, it kind of got in my head. They literally won the game 2-1. And come playoff time, if they play the Leafs in a 4-7 series, that's how they're going to have to win. Those low scoring games and, really play better defensively, good, net front presence. And you see the goal that Gallagher scored. You don't see the Leafs scoring goals like that. And I'll take that any day of the week. It's not going to be on the TSN top 10, but hey, it's a good goal. The Habs take it. They win. They're down 1 goal heading into the third period, win 2-1. Without having to go to overtime. So season series is now 2-1. I'm fired up about that. One team on Saturday, I got to say, Jake, how about the Nashville Predators, man? This team sucks. Like, they're horrible. Like, their PK sucks. Their power play sucks. Philip Forsberg's going crazy, but nobody else is there to help him. The Detroit Red Wings take care of business and defeat the Nashville Predators. That's how you know you're bad, man. Interesting weekend of hockey. What do you think about the weekend of the NHL?
Yeah, man, it was fun to be out at the bar with you. Shout out HFX Sports Bar. We had a good time there watching the Habs. Made sure to make it home just in time to see the Gallagher goal. But no, man, the Habs looked really good. That's how they're going to have to play the Leafs. They're not going to be able to go end-to-end with the Leafs. They're not going to be able to win, in my opinion, like the 5-4 hockey games. They're more suited to win the 2-1s, 1-0, 2-0, 3-2 type of games, right? They got a really good defensive unit, and shout out Eric Olin. He a buddy of ours. He said we haven't been given enough love to Jeff Petrie, and that's true. Jeff Petrie's been a stud for them. So thanks, Eric, for letting us know we haven't been giving out enough shout outs to Jeff Petrie. But the Habs are good, man. I'm big on them. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, the Leafs are a regular season team. The Habs are built for the playoffs, and I think the Leafs are kind of built for the playoffs too. We've seen them win a couple different ways this year. I'm not completely out on, the Leafs are gonna do anything in the regular season and then do nothing in the playoffs. But I think it's gonna be interesting. Other than that, I had so we might as well just dive into it. Hit a crazy parlay this weekend. I'm not a huge tennis guy, but the boys, a couple of the boys are into tennis, right? So we're watching the Aussie Open, second and third round. Having a couple good days, couple nice wins here and there, and then shout out Andrew McGinnis and his wager talk picks there. Muchova
Let's go.
had her on the money line. I think she was like a plus 180 or something like that, and actually had her parlayed with Fugani against I forget who he was playing, some guy that was actually from Australia, and he was paying like a plus 500. So I had that parlayed, and it was like a plus 1,300 parlay, and cash that with ease, buddy. And every time we've been on, I've been saying, I haven't been betting, and thanks, cool bet, but I am going back into retirement. I had a nice win. Shout out the Aussie Open. I'm a new tennis fan. In all honesty, though, I actually have been enjoying the tennis. I've never really given tennis a chance. The boys have been telling me for a minute here, you're missing out. You're missing out. And some of the games I've watched have actually been pretty exciting. Like, you don't realize how athletic of a game tennis is, and it's you versus the other person out on the court. There's nobody else out there. So I had a lot of fun watching the Aussie Open this weekend. In terms of other sports, man, it was just that and hockey for me, and then the UFC. The Aussie Open really had my attention, though, because that's where I was betting, of course. Wherever you're betting, wherever the money is, that's where you're going to be paying attention to. So I had a good weekend doing that. Were you watching it? I know you were watching, obviously, the Aussie Open. Were you excited for me, buddy? I know.
I was fired up,
I was
man.
excited for myself.
Dude, I was like, man, I had to like keep double checking, right? Like,
yeah,
I had to keep looking. I was like, how the fuck did he make that much money off like a two-teamer? You know what I mean? Like, because you put $50 down, right?
yeah.
So I was like, how the hell are we getting a return? Like, and then I started looking at the odds. I was like, this is insane. Like, my guy didn't even just regularly bet this guy. He put him on like, you know what I mean? Like, usually if you got like a huge underdog like that, you just bet it. Just by itself.
He won in straight sets too.
That's what I mean.
That was the thing.
Like, usually I'll parlay piece like two favorites, not like a big underdog. Like that's already gonna be good. So I was hyped. You saw, bro. I was hyped for you. It was crazy hype.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I was doing the exact opposite. Like I literally was just finding two favorites and just pounding them and just keep on going and going and going with it. And now that we're in the later rounds, it's a lot harder to do that. But no, it's cool, man. And like honestly, I was talking with I can't remember really who it was that was saying it, but like about the difference in like the women's and men's. And it's cool watching the women's because like there's so many more breaks, right? There's so many more break points. Like, and it's kind of cool that way where the pay, like the
serve's not as important.
Yeah, the scoring change in the serve, like it's not really as like expected, Like you could literally watch like Raonic play like early on in his tournaments against like the weaker opponents, like when he's serving, that's just like that's GG. Like it's like
he's
that's
blowing it past.
Yeah, he's just that's
a good point because I think Muchova actually had a lot of break points against I forget the lady she was playing. They were both from Czech Republic, so the game was actually pretty intense. I don't know if you were watching. The other girl had like a breakdown, and she got deducted a point. She went to the bathroom and like started breaking rackets and stuff. And,
oh shit!
Yeah, man, she had a crazy breakdown. I don't know if they had like a rivalry, like a Czech rivalry, or what was going on there, but the game was super intense. And I've never watched tennis in general, so I was watching women's tennis this weekend. I was watching men's tennis this weekend, and that's something that I did notice that the women's games were. I won't say they were more or less interesting. I just think the serve not playing such a huge factor added a different dynamic. Like, I noticed like the women were a lot more aggressive on the serves, right? So they were playing like more in, I think, than like a lot of the men were kind of standing behind the line, where I noticed a lot of the women were kind of like heels on the line. So it was just cool to see like the different ways like each gender played the game. The men were, I noticed, like you said, the serves were like everything. Like if you scored a break, like betting wise, like, oh, and I knew it was huge because like I wasn't even really sure, but like anytime someone got a break point and we were on them, like the group chat was going nuts.
Yeah.
Like right away, I was like, okay, like this obviously isn't something that's very common, or it's something that we need to win. But I had a good weekend watching the Aussie Open. I had a lot of fun. I'm actually excited to dive a little bit more into tennis. I'm somebody that's pretty hard to win over for stuff, but the Aussie Open had me won over pretty easy this weekend. I'm not going to lie. I know the money was a factor, but even like on the games I lost, I still had fun watching the play, to be honest.
What's cool about it is like it's a whole tournament, like round of 64. Like,
yeah,
you feel like you've literally followed something, and it all happens so quickly. So, like, 5 days from now, like, we're gonna be in there in like the semis, and you're invested into the tournament and stuff like that. So that's like super sick. It's funny, Jake, you mentioned about like the men standing farther back, right, and like women standing more in. My uncle used to manage a tennis club, actually in the one in Truro. And he said that like there was a guy that he knew that was like so coordinated, and it was like kind of like a cocky, like smack talking way, but he would stand like super, super high up in the box and almost try and get like an instant gut reaction. Like the second it would hit the, the second it hit the ground, he would just like deflect it almost, right?
Yeah.
And he said it was almost like a cocky thing he would do against people he knew didn't have a great serve. He would just stand like as super high up and be like, all right, like give it to me. Like, let's see what you got. And like, it's like, I thought that was kind of funny. Like, he was like, I've never really heard of like, there's obviously a shit talking in every sport, but he was like, yeah, man, like that's kind of how you be a douche in tennis. Like, you just stand like really far up.
You just don't respect the serve.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the tournament. And like you mentioned about the Leafs, I just wanted to say, because I like to go on record about kind of being a fan and not being biased as well. The Leafs actually have been playing better defensively. Their games last year, if you look at it, and I know we talk about a lot of, from betting standpoints, but this team was flying over their expected totals, like they're, countlessly. And now they're defeating teams 3-1, 3-2. So, so far it's been pretty good for them. We'll see if they can continue to keep that going. And it's interesting because like the Mark Bergevin, the GM for the Habs, he was saying today, he's like, man, like, I think we have a good team. I think we're right up there in the North. But he goes, until we play the Bruins or Tampa, we don't know how we stack up against anybody else. So that's what's kind of cool, is because like you're not playing anybody else. So once you make, like, it's the semifinals of the Stanley Cup. It's such a weird format, but like you could be shocked. Like I feel like Tampa, it might be a bad thing for them because their division's kind of top heavy, or at least some divisions. Like the North has been pretty competitive, like relatively at least, but like
I feel like all the divisions are kind of like that. They're kind of like cut down the middle, where like here are the teams that are probably going to make it. Like here are the teams that are probably going to fight to make it, and then these teams are just out of it, right? And I know we talked about like that was a concern of ours, but honestly, I haven't had a problem with that, because you're getting a lot of like teams playing in and around their skill level most nights. So like when we see like Edmonton playing Ottawa, like the first time they played, they killed them. But like this past week, like the series was a little bit more competitive, I would say. Like, Sens had a little bit more flashes of brilliance than they did against the Oilers. But I get what you're saying. I do agree too. Like, I think for every team though, when it comes time, like when those teams get to like the semifinals, when you're playing somebody outside your division, like you can watch film, but like it's different when you get out there and play somebody. So like for a team like Tampa Bay, who's built on speed and skill, they might have a problem with somebody like the Habs, who also have speed, but they're a little bit more bigger and they're a little bit more physical, and they don't mind playing those grinded out games. So it's going to be interesting when we get later on in the season, when we start seeing, like what are the matchups going to be for the first round, and then obviously into the second round. And then I think the semifinals is wherever like you could see something go. Like I think you could see either the Leafs or the Habs go all the way to the Cup final this year, just the way it's set up. They have a realistic shot, and both teams, I think, this year are equipped. I think the Habs maybe a little bit better with the goalie tandem in case something happens, where the Leafs have been kind of relying a lot on Freddie Anderson. He's played really well this year, but you obviously don't want anything to happen to him. But like the fall off from Freddie to whoever they decide is the backup, which I don't think they really have even played anybody. I think their backups have played like 3 games this year, or 4 games. So it'll just be interesting as the season goes on to see how the storylines progress throughout the NHL, man.
Definitely, yeah. And before we move on, I wanted to mention as well, I thought it was kind of cool because Tampa Bay was like absolute steamrolling everybody. And then they had the Florida Panthers Friday night. and Florida actually gets the best of them. And I kind of thought to myself, man, like Tampa Bay is the better team. I like them to win, but they kind of needed a little bit of a shot to the chin, right? They needed to wake up. They've kind of been just like lazying their way through their games. They come back and win 6-1 against the exact same team Saturday night. So just goes to show like this really messed up format we're playing in now. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of a wake up call. And then you're right back in game 4. I thought that was pretty cool, to show. Yeah, like, Florida takes them on. They win. Next game, it's not even close. A blowout from Tampa. But look forward to doing these weekend roundups every week to kind of go over our thoughts and certain things that excited us. And hopefully Jake keeps on cashing those big plus money tickets.
I'm taking a break. You know me, buddy. I get out I get when everybody's like, you're hot. I'm like, nah, I'm taking the money and I'm gone for a bit. I'll be back in a couple of weeks and we'll see how it goes.
Everything I've made the past 5 days, I've invested in the score. Everything. It's all
hey,
on the score
on
right
too,
now.
Brock. I won't even laugh. I'm in on the score.
Let's
Oculus
go.
too. I heard you're in on Oculus as well now. That's another promising one. Shout out Oculus. Shout out the score too.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about J.J. Watt getting released by the Houston Texans and his statement that he made via Instagram and Twitter. Munchie's HFX is located at 1840 Vernon Street, providing you several exotic snacks and sodas. Munchie's HFX is also Atlantic Lottery certified, so you make sure to stop by and grab all your pro line and lottery needs. Check out Munchie's Convenience on Instagram at Munchie's HFX and stay up to date with all the latest products.
I wanted to do this on video as opposed to putting out a statement or doing a press conference or anything like that, because I want you guys to hear it directly from me. I want to speak directly to you and the city of Houston so you can hear the words straight from my mouth. I have sat down with the McNair family and I have asked them for my release, and we have mutually agreed to part ways at this time. I came here 10 years ago as a kid from Wisconsin who'd never really been to Texas before. And now I can't imagine my life without Texas in it. The way that you guys have treated me, besides draft night, I mean, you guys booed me on draft night, but every day after that, you treated me like family. And I truly feel like you're my family. Since that day, I have tried to do everything in my power to work and earn your respect and try and make you proud on and off the field. You guys have given me everything and more, and I can only hope that you feel like I've given you everything I have. The city of Houston's been unbelievable to me. It's where I met my wife. It's where I've met lifelong friends and my teammates. I've had incredible coaches and training staff and equipment staff and cafeteria workers and the weight room staff and the front office people and people on the streets, people in restaurants and grocery stores and showing up at my house. The connection is special, and I will never, ever take that for granted because I know how rare it is. I'm excited and looking forward to a new opportunity, and I've been working extremely hard. But at the same time, it is always tough to move on. And I just want you guys to know that I love you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the McNair family for giving me, drafting me and giving me my first opportunity in the NFL. Thank you, Houston. I love you.
All right, Jake. So he made it very clear it was a mutual agreement. He sat down with the family. He sat down with them. They talked things over. We all know what the deal has been with the Texans for a long time. He's given everything he really has to that team. My question to you is, how far does it really go where you can just give it your all and then finally leave? To me, it's acceptable. I'm all about loyalty, man. I'm all about loyalty to a team, to a franchise, to your draft team, all that good stuff. But to me, this is acceptable. He's given it what he has to this team, this city.
Yeah, it's I don't think it was a hard decision for JJ. JJ's been there for 10 years. He's given his everything to the city. He's put his own personal money into the city after Hurricane Harvey and all of that terrible tragedy that went on there. But I think it's right by Houston. I think the situation's a little bit different than Deshaun. Deshaun's younger, has obviously just signed that new contract, longer term, big money. And with JJ, like, I think this goes a lot deeper than just like the relationship. Like, I think the Texans were also aware that JJ's owed $17 million this year coming up. He has been known to miss games from time to time. And instead of, killing every relationship that they, like the organizations would have with players, the guy came and asked for his release, so they let him go. And now it's just, to me, like, what is JJ going to do? Where is he going to go? And what are the possible fits? And I know you probably have some ideas on that, and I probably have some ideas on that. So where do you realistically think that JJ is going to end up?
Thought it was kind of funny. His brother was calling him out on Twitter saying, hey, come join us. We saw the Niners looking at him. I'm not really sure, man. I feel like there's been a list of like 9 teams that are kind of excited and trying to grab him and stuff like that. I just think that just like we see in the NBA, just like we sort of see in the NHL as well, he's going to go to a contender, man. So honestly, Jake, you're better at these predictions than me. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I would probably say I think there's 3 legitimate choices for JJ that I would consider championship contenders that, he has a realistic possibility of winning. I think obviously the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one. There, he would have to take a little bit more of a pay cut. He's made a lot of money in his career, so he might be more willing to do that. I also think Green Bay, your boys, are a huge team that could be in play. They're absolutely dying for a pass rusher, a very, very high-end elite pass rusher. JJ's from Wisconsin. He played at the University of Wisconsin. So that's just a matchup made in heaven. It's whether he wants to go back and play where he's from or, broaden his horizons again. He went to Houston. He loved Houston. He said he couldn't see himself without Houston again in his life. So he might want to, not go home and keep doing that, seeing the world, seeing the country, playing in different markets, playing with different guys. But also, I think, too, Pittsburgh's a real shout. Like, I don't think 3 brothers have ever played on a team before. That's a really cool storyline. I know JJ's a huge family guy, no pun intended, but that way, like, in his parents, like, they wouldn't have to worry about so many COVID protocols, and like things are so risky now where like maybe his parents do want to see them play a little bit more and they don't know, like, how do we go to JJ's game and then quarantine for 2 weeks and then go see TJ and Derek play, where they could all be on the same team, and maybe that brings them a little bit closer together during a time where they might not necessarily to see each other as much. But I've been hearing too, like, New England. I don't think JJ is leaving Houston to go to New England. That's a retooling, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. I don't think JJ is going to go up to New England and go through that Bill Belichick grinded out system this late in his career. Everybody's saying, he gets to prove he's tough because there's been some questions about JJ's toughness in his career. But for me, those are the 3. And you mentioned San Francisco. I could see San Francisco, but it'd be hard, right? I think they're really going all in on a quarterback.
That's the thing.
I don't think that JJ would be a top of their list for a player that they would be going for. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably, whatever your bankroll would be, I would probably split it in half and go 50% of it on the Packers and 50% on the Steelers. I think those are the only 2 options that make sense at this point in his career.
Yeah, I think one point that you brought up that really stuck out to me was like the personal aspect, right? Like it's sports, it's the winning aspect, but it's also like being with family. You mentioned Green Bay, going where you're from and you're familiar with, or the aspect of wanting to be in a new place. So there's so many aspects like that people just don't think of. Like I was actually reading a really cool article today about how well the Vancouver Canucks GM and their ownership and management treat the players. Like that's cool to hear about. That's not like hockey related, right? It's just about the team and the livelihoods. These guys are humans just like us. So that's a cool angle, like you mentioned. And then there's also just the winning aspect, going to Tampa, a team led by Brady, a team has a great defense, a team that's already obviously established, and now they're going to get him, So there's kind of like 2 avenues, right? It's like, do you want to just like go to somewhere you're going to be comfortable and happy, or go somewhere where it can be a contender, or try and find that happy medium? And so I found that super cool in free agency. We talked about it with Columbus, with Jack Roslovich. I mean, he's shining right now in Columbus for the Blue Jackets. Nobody even wants to play in Columbus, and this guy's from there, playing really well, right? So It's a great point you mentioned there about JJ and the fact that where he's comfortable. The thing I thought was super cool was like he's so good, Jake, but 9 teams actively, looking, and they haven't really made it clear who those teams are.
Yeah, the other cool thing too, I didn't really touch on is that I like the way that JJ actually went about it. Right, he got to do his own message on his own platform, and nobody got to kind of like twist his words or kind of like say like kind of like angle things to make it seem like he said something when he really didn't. And the people got to hear it from the source. They got to know what JJ's thought process was, how he was feeling, what he was thinking, and what the city meant to him. So I think that was really cool, and more athletes should. It kind of kills like the journalistic, some journalistic aspects, but with decisions like that are like franchise altering and life altering with players of that status, it's cool for him to take ownership and be like, this is why I'm leaving. Like, I don't want you guys to think this has anything to do with you. Like, I love Houston. It's just for me and my career, I think it's better if I go try and play somewhere else. And to me, it brings up a further point about, I think, is after seeing the Chiefs dominate 2 years ago, win the Super Bowl, come back this year and lose, does JJ really think, like, everybody knows how hard it is to go back to back in the NFL. And I just want to know if JJ's thinking about that, like in terms of Tampa Bay. Well, like, there's going to be some guys that are going to be leaving on the defense, like Levante David's going to get paid, Shaq Barrett's going to get paid. So right there from their pass rush, there's already 2 guys that could potentially be gone, and JJ could fill one of those roles, but everybody knows how hard it is to repeat. There's so many storylines that go into this, and it's going to be exciting to see what he does. I think he's going to take his time. He knows he has so much time to make a decision, and he's really going to weigh all of his options. But it's going to be interesting to see whoever gets him, because they are getting, I wouldn't say necessarily top 5 talent-wise right now in the NFL in terms of defense, but, name recognition, like top 3 to 5 defensive player in the NFL.
Yeah, generational name for us, at least, I'd say. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. I can't wait. And, we're going to get into it later on the show about the future of the brand, of the company. But the best part is when in the summer, when it's mostly just baseball going on, we're going to have the Euros as well. There's going to be off-season talk across several different sports on the Game of Inches podcast. So I love talking about free agency and moves and, players leaving certain teams. It brings a lot of good conversation about where they're going to go and how they're going to fit in. So look forward to discussing it when he finally does decide or end up with a certain team. Right after this short break, we're bringing our guy Harry back onto the show to discuss the UFC and Usman defeating Burns in pretty exciting fashion. We'll be right back here on episode 11.
The Full Circle Realty team specializes in commercial, residential, and property management by taking a distinctive entrepreneurial approach to help clients and customers find their next investment. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate in 2021, contact the team today at info@fullcirclerealty.ca to learn more about buying and selling homes in 2021.
All right, we are back here, episode 11 of Game of Inches. We got Jake, of course. I am Andrew, and our man Harry, who's got a new name now. He's brought with @MMA Harry. He is our UFC insider here, joining us not only to sometimes preview some fights, but to recap some fights. Of course, the Usman and Burns fight was unbelievable. It was nuts. Crazy, crazy, crazy finish. Very highly anticipated fight. Welcome in, man. What's going on, Harry?
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Doing good, man.
I was gonna say, this is it, buddy. Excited to have you back. We had a crazy main event on Saturday evening, man. What were your first thoughts about Kamaru? Because I know I was a little bit of a hater. I didn't have too many good things to say about Mr. Marty Usman. So I know you probably got some things to make me eat my words.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Marty Fake Usman either from the start. But ever since that 5th round against Covington, my whole thoughts about him have changed. There's just like an air of invincibility. When he gets in trouble, he can dig deep and get into a next level gear that can take him over the top whenever he needs it. And not many fighters have that. Like, lots of champions, like, they're amazing fighters, but not a lot of them have that extra gear that they can get to when they're in trouble. I look at Israel Adesanya against Kelvin Gastelum in that 5th round, where they can just dig deep when they're in trouble and they can just excel.
Yeah, it's a good point, buddy. Oh no, go ahead, Andrew.
My bad. I was gonna say, Harry, like, what was your impression when Usman got rocked a little bit and he went down there? Everyone's saying they haven't really seen that, right? Like, that's kind of
what
the
I was
big
gonna
thing.
say.
Yeah, like, what was your first impression? Obviously, you were probably like, "Holy shit!" Like everybody else in the world was, but like, what does that mean to you? Even more now, looking at Usman as a fighter, the fact that he for a split second looked like he could go down.
I thought that was it, to be honest, because there was lots of rumblings
too.
out there in the MMA community that Gilbert Burns was winning the sparring sessions whenever they were sparring at the gym, and that he was getting the better of Usman a lot of the time. And then there's this talk leading up to the fight about how Burns is more powerful, faster, stronger, built different. And then coming to the first round, Gilbert rocks him within like the first 30 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, this guy might be the next big thing. And then Usman just flips it within like a minute. And Gilbert's on the ground. He just kicks him for like 2 minutes, just kicks him on the ground while he regroups, and the fight's over the other way. Just dominant from that point on.
Yeah, man, I was surprised because I've never seen Usman rocked like that, and honestly, it kind of reminded, like, I was getting shades of like, and I know we've been going back and forth on, we won't get into the fight, but when you remember when Jan hit Dom and it was just like, oh fuck, like he's done.
Yeah,
like you just knew like he wasn't out, but you were like, he's not getting back up, like he's gonna get stopped. When we saw Kamaru's knees like go like spaghetti legged, I was like, oh my goodness, here we go. But no, he really dug deep, man. I was super impressed with how Kamaru rebounded. I think between like me and you and Andrew, like something that we probably noticed and maybe some of the casuals wouldn't, but he was really like textbook using that jab. Like he was really sticking that jab out there. And that was the punch that dropped Gilbert Burns. And I can't remember, seeing somebody like drop somebody like 2 times with just like a stiff jab like that. And you could tell like he was hurt. Like, did you know Kamaru had a jab like that? Like I was pretty impressed that everything was leading off of that jab. I didn't see that coming, to be honest.
Well, he always had a jab. He just never used it. And one guy that I have to mention, Trevor Whitman. That guy's a magician when it comes to MMA and striking and game planning. And there's no doubt that Kamaru's striking has gone to a next level under him, and it makes a lot of sense. And that jab was nasty. And then he was switching stances and going with the other jab too there, all landing. Gilbert was just walking into it and he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
that's what's nuts, man. Like, is that even a jab? Like, that's insane. Like,
that's what I was gonna
like
say, like,
his jab is like what I could do, like going as hard as I could times like 6. Like, it's crazy that that's a jab. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about this as a jab, but that jab like knocked somebody down. That jab like stunned somebody. So it's just so crazy, man. Like, what can you say about the gas tank, Harry? Obviously, that's a huge factor in MMA in general, but a lot of people said that if Burns is going to win, he's got to be able to manage it, but also kind of take some risks.
I thought Burns did an okay job managing his gas tank. I didn't think he was in too much trouble there. I think the real mistake he made was not going after Usman when he had him hurt, and he knew he had him hurt because he's trained with him so many times. He definitely knew Usman was hurt there when he's running backwards with his hands up, trying to just survive. I think he should have pushed it there and try and force Usman to go for the takedown. I think that would have been best case scenario for Gilbert to try and get the sub there. I'm surprised Usman's very smart for not going for that takedown because Gilbert would have hopped right on his neck. And
oh, sorry. I think you cut. Sorry, buddy. You cut out there. Yeah. I think the cardio. You are right. The one thing I will say, you touched on Trevor Whitman. Trevor Whitman's an absolute wizard, like you said. I don't think I ever saw Marty strike like that before, buddy. Like I was super impressed with that, like you said. And I think there's not a lot of guys like Whitman in the UFC that can really like do that to a fighter, that can really like take them to like that next level where like you're at that championship level. But moving past I don't want to really move past the fight yet. I have one more thing I want to add about the fight. What are your thoughts on Gilbert Burns, like the emotion after the fight? Because like I know he was really upset, and I know And I know we shouldn't have like a stigma like, oh, you can't show your emotions or whatever. And like fighting's a really competitive sport, and it like in some instances it can be life or death. And like, you know, you're going in there against another guy and you probably think, well, hopefully you think you're gonna win. And he came out on the short side of the stick. Just I haven't seen somebody like since like DC do that. And you know, DC got like knocked out, but I don't know. I found it a little cringeworthy for me, buddy.
It was a sad moment for sure, but I'm okay with it just because it shows that how much he cares. If he's the one to get that emotional after it, just shows how much work he put in, how much he wants the belt, how much he like just wanted it so bad that he's so sad that he didn't get the chance to hold the belt. And I like it a lot. I thought it was really interesting seeing Usman sit across there just looking at him. I think Usman was just as sad as Burns was, to be honest, watching that. So
Yeah.
that was a tough to watch for sure.
I remember you put in our group chat, you were like, oh shit, like they're not going to touch gloves. And then after the first round was over,
Yeah.
Usman was like smiling and he's like, you got me. Like he touched his gloves. And then after the second round was over, when Usman kind of took over again, he started chatting shit. It was kind of like he was only respectful when he was losing. And then when he started winning again, he went right back to chatting shit. Like, is there anything that you can say just like from your own, like just what you saw about like their relationship and like the smack talk?
I think that was more of just a competitive mindset from Usman looking back on it at the start there, just showing that he's in the game. He's not focused on being your friend right now inside the octagon. He's coming out there trying to take your head off no matter who you are. He's coming out there to win. He can't think of you as a friend. He has to think of you as a foe. That's all I saw.
Yeah, so to move on just past the fight and kind of look into the future and kind of, you know, also kind of like look into the past, more of like a two-part question. So where do you think Usman ranks in terms of welterweights? Like currently, obviously he has not like, I mean like ever. Like, you know, George St. Pierre, like Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, like all the boys that ever fought at 170, right? Where does he rank currently? And what do you think's next for Kamaru after this fight?
I'd still have GSP at 1. I'd have Usman at 2A and Matt Hughes at 2B. I don't think he's too far off of Hughes. I don't think he's at GSP level because of the title defenses and the title victories. While his streak's amazing and it broke the record, he only has like 3 or 4 title wins to GSP's like 11 or 12. So it's hard to compare that yet. And Hughes has a bunch of title wins too, so I'd have to have him there right around the same area. And what's next? It's either Masvidal or Covington, in my opinion, and 2 interesting storylines there with rematches in play.
What do you think's more likely?
Since he called out Masvidal, I think that's more likely because Masvidal's not going to say no, and the UFC's not going to say no to a Masvidal-Usman pay-per-view again after the first one did 1.3 million buys. So I think that's more likely because money talks.
Do you feel like, I wasn't even planning on asking this, but like just kind of a spur of the moment question, like, do you feel like sometimes the fans want to see these trilogies and these rematches and that kind of stuff, or like certain fighters fight the same guys, but then sometimes it's almost like, man, like we don't even really want to see it. Like, do you see like the back and forth talk with Nate, like talking about Conor? He's like, fuck that, I don't even want to fight this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny. Like, people, we know what Dana White wants, and Dana White wants the green money. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, that's all he cares about for the most part. Unless, like, if Usman went out here and slapped Masvidal around for 5 rounds, he's not going to say, all right, let's do the trilogy because it sold a bunch. But, and that Nate Diaz stuff, Nate would fight Conor in an instant if he got offered the fight, but Nate's just saying that because he's not getting offered the fight.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So this is just an opinion of mine. This is more not really a question, but you can give me your thoughts on it. So I think the second matchup for Masvidal and Usman would be a lot more interesting than the first one. I know Kamaru said George already had I had the 6 days. He had the 6 day short camp, like already planned as an excuse. Like, but I think for what Masvidal went in there and did versus what Kamaru expected he could go in there and do to Masvidal, I think Masvidal held his own for 6 days camp. Like, he really didn't get taken down. He got controlled a lot against the fence. And I feel like if you had a longer camp to prepare for that and you could bring guys in, they might not necessarily have the level as Kamaru Usman, because Kamaru is a big 170. Like, he realistically is probably a middleweight that cuts down to 170. So I feel like Masvidal would have a lot of challenges to overcome, but I think that matchup is super interesting. And a lot of people have been saying, you know, the Colby matchup will be more interesting because they got to see that 5-round slugfest war, but they also forget, like, those guys got to train for that fight. Like, Masvidal showed up on 6 days' notice just ready to fight, and I think if you give him a full camp, he could really go in there and do some damage, because if Marty's in this frame of mind now with Trevor Whitman where he wants to strike a lot and he wants to prove, like, you know, like, I can do more than just hold guys up against or hold them down up against the fence or hold them down on the ground. Like, I can knock dudes out. That kind of plays into George's hands. Like, George is a street fighter, like a brawler. He loves to kick. He loves to throw those like combos. If he doesn't really have to worry about Marty going for the takedown, I think it could make for a lot more interesting fight this time around.
Yeah, I think it would make it more competitive and give Jorge a better chance at victory, but that chance at victory is still so slim, because I think it would help his gas tank more, because of that weight cut was insane. I don't know if you guys ever saw that YouTube video where he put out where he's cutting that weight.
Yeah.
He was in rough shape there trying to get down to 170 for that fight and barely got there. So I think it would help in his energy levels, and maybe he'll have more than 1 round chance to go try and knock Usman out. But even like team elevation, Trevor Whitman, I know you're getting at the striking there. You got to remember they have guys like Curtis Blades too, who just like to grapple and dominate too. They're
And
not just a
Dillashaw
striking thing. Yeah, so they have a bit of everything. And I don't know, I still see Usman just controlling him in the clinch, taking him down. Even if he's not taking down, just controlling him, foot stomp, shoulder, just working him. I think he can dominate Masvidal if Masvidal can't get it done early. But the only thing that's going
No, go ahead.
The only thing that's going Masvidal's way is that he just saw Burns rock Usman in round 1. So he knows there's a chin to be had there for him if he can land the shots.
That's what I was gonna say. Is do you think that because Masvidal saw that, you know, Kamaru could be hit, and if you do display that, like, one thing that I noticed is Marty wasn't really going, or shouldn't even really be calling him Marty. We'll call him by his real name, Kamaru. Yeah. He really wasn't going for, like, he really wasn't clinching too much because he respected Burns' power. Like, he knew he got hurt, so like he was picking his spots to use the clinch, and I think that played into Burns' hands and Usman's hands, because in both ways it kind of helps the fighter, where Kamaru's not putting himself in dangerous situations, but Gilbert's also not lugging around Usman's weight the whole fight. So I think if something like that for George, if he can kind of have a game plan like that, where maybe he gets Kamaru's respect this time out the gate with a shot or a kick, like something to show, like, you know, I'm here to fight this time, and you're not just going to walk me down and just grab me and just hold me here. I feel like that's something big for Masvidal that he has to prove.
Yeah, he's got to learn how to get out of that clinch too. He's got to be prepared for that, because whenever Kamaru got him in the clinch against the fence, he was just stuck there for the round. He didn't have any burst to get away from it. He didn't have any threat of getting away from it. So he's going to have to figure that out before he can do anything, unless he can land that big shot early.
All right, Harry, we'll have you on to discuss a lot more UFC events coming up in the futures. I love hearing your predictions on who guys are going to go up against, and it's pretty cool to hear your reaction as far as this Usman fight goes. And like you said, Usman, he did get hit a little bit early on, so to see the fact that he was a little bit exploited, we'll see if anybody can take advantage of that. Unfortunately, like you said, Burns didn't really do so. I kind of wish he did kind of jump all over him when he had the chance, but unfortunately he didn't. Usman goes on and keeps things going for him. Harry, thanks a lot for joining us, man.
Just before we let Harry go here, was it Harry that had this inside the distance? Because I don't think that was my bet.
That was me. And I also had Burns inside the distance. So I was upset when he didn't jump on Usman either.
Yeah, so shout out Harry for giving the boys the inside the distance pick. Respect for that. Harry got us on the UFC picks every now and then, you know.
Every now and then. I'm gone every weekend, baby.
Well, every weekend, you know me, I'm in and out the game, so I'm every now and then. I can't be committing every weekend, because, you know, I love to win, but I also hate to lose.
Straight up.
Semi-retirement,
baby. I'm going golfing for the spring.
All right, Harry, we'll check you later, man.
All right, peace.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, let's end this off, Jake. I think that it was kind of something that I mentioned before we started this pod about just like the future of the brand. You and I have been chatting a lot. We've been talking with our guy Luke about the future of the brand and not just the podcast alone. So there's Mayflower Sports. That is the name of the company. That is the name of the brand. We have Game of Inches. We have the Life Below Par. We have so many different podcasts that we want to start. And I think that's kind of just a quick little thing for all of you guys that have made it this far in the podcast, the loyal listeners, for you guys out there. We appreciate everybody listening. We just want you guys to know we have so many great guests coming up, interviews coming up. We're going to be covering so many events. It's going to be just so great. So Jake, let's get your thoughts, man. And let's chat a little bit about the future of the company.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. We're talking about hosting events through the summer. We're talking about interviews. We got a couple big interviews coming up in the next 2 weeks. One local sports guy who I think more people should know about. I don't think necessarily a lot of people know about this guy. He really put in the work, man, and he's really achieving his goals right now, and he's really doing the things that he wants to do in the sport. And I don't want to give too much away, so I don't want to give too many clues about what sports he plays and all that, but I'm really excited to talk to him. I think that our goal for this is to bring you more insight into people that are from our province, but more on a national scale or a nationwide scale, however you want to put it. It's really cool to talk to these people that are doing the things that they love, and they get a chance to experience those things and then share them with us. And that's our goal, is just to kind of get to talk to these people, kind of get pick their brain a little bit about how they made it to where they got, and give that content to the people to show them listen, these people are from our province. We should be extremely proud of them and use them as examples for kids to strive to be like them. I think there's a lot of untapped potential that we could do with this podcast, and I'm super excited, buddy.
Yeah, I'm really excited too, man. And I think that to your point, we're just going to try and get people on and try and talk to people to get their message out there, to try and explain their story and tell us all about them. And one thing we want to make very clear to everybody listening out there is that we are not going to be a one-trick pony. We are not going to be a one-sport pony. We are going to have a lot of different categories, a lot of different sports, different positions in sports. Everybody, no matter who you are, if you're making an impact, if you're doing something special, we want to be the brand to find you and to bring you on here.
City.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention, even in the city, if you're doing your thing in the city, we want to talk to you guys. It's important that we put each other on, that we let each other know about the good things that are going on in our city, and the good people and the good athletes and the good stories and the good coaches and the good community efforts. I think that's a lot of what's get lost right now in sports media, is everybody's so grand scale. Let's talk about the big leagues, and we're kind of forgetting about the grassroots aspect, the things that are building these athletes to get to them to go where they want to go. And I think it's extremely important for us to give people inside the city as well a chance to tell their story about playing AUS basketball, because not everybody gets to play AUS basketball. That's extremely huge extremely big accomplishment. And same with if you're playing anything like track, soccer, there's no ends to this. Our goal is just to get as many messages out there, regardless of what kind of stage you're on,
Yeah, man. We've got some you guys are going to be shocked with some of the names we got coming on this podcast, and we're going to have them on as guests on Game of Inches. We're going to have some just solo episodes of Game of Inches that are strictly just interviews. But like Jake said, we're going to have people from all types of different sports. We're going to have some interesting stories to tell. So we can't wait. We're excited. And, the thing is like Jake said, some people are, out there charging for you to tell your story to people. We're just literally going to be a media company for free. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all over Twitter and Instagram. We are here at the disposal for the community of Halifax, where Jake and I are from, or nationwide in Canada, sometimes North America. The sky's the limit for us. So we kind of wanted to just simplify things, let people know we are definitely not just Game of Inches. We are Mayflower Sports. We are going to be doing all kinds of different things. We might have some events going on. We might have some different affiliate deals.
Don't say
all kinds of stuff.
we're
Oh, we're
definitely
going
gonna have
to.
this event going on this summer. I'm super excited, buddy. Everybody knows. I won't say what it was, but last year I found an extreme passion of mine. I absolutely love it, and we're gonna have an event this summer that's centered around this passion of mine, and it's gonna be an awesome time, man. Like you said, we're gonna be doing so many different things, different shows coming up. Where we're trying to do some different shows for you guys, so we're getting more in depth, maybe takes about some of the things that we're talking about or not talking about, right? There's so much room in this market and there's a space for everybody. It's all about finding your space and how you want to utilize your content and what message you want to convey. And I think our message is we're just trying to give as much content and as much good content to people as we can.
Definitely. Anything else to add, Jake, before we wrap things up?
No, buddy, just great episode. I love doing this every I won't give away the recording days, but the twice a week that we do it, I'm very excited about the days we do it. I look forward to it. I look all week at stuff to plan, stuff to talk about. Me and you have been in a lot of communication about how we want to grow this, and it's a super exciting time for us, man. It's we're building something here, and it's extremely exciting to see how it's already taken shape, and some things that we necessarily didn't think we would get out of the gate that we got, and an interview that maybe some people wouldn't be able to get, but we've gotten it, and some of the shows that we're looking to bring that a lot of people might not necessarily have thought about or would think about, that's something that people would be interested in. We're all over. We're going to be more than just a sports. We're going to be a sports and a lifestyle platform. We want to get other things out there just besides the mainstream sports.
The summer's going to be huge, man. Next few weeks are going to be absolutely awesome. This is episode 11. Can't wait until episode 111. For right now, though, guys, this is episode 11, Game of Inches. For Jake, I'm Andrew. And of course, special thanks to our guy at MMA Harry for joining us. We always appreciate Harry's time. Thanks a lot, guys, for listening. And we'll see you guys next episode.